up to temperature, 210, with the reservoir filled with the fluid you want to test, you pull the cork and you start a stopwatch. When the oil hits the 60 milliliter line, click off the stopwatch and you've generated a number in seconds. And that's called save-old seconds universal. Then we go to a chart that SAE gives us, and we can determine what we made. SAE tells us if we have an oil between 68 seconds and 84 seconds, we have a 40-weight oil. Okay? So you say, John, what's the big deal about that? You know, and I would say, if you build an oil to the lower end of the viscosity scale, you can have problems with it staying in grade for the whole length of its existence. Typically, we build to the higher end. We try to build to about 81, 82 seconds all the time. And you say, well, what's the big deal? Well, you can think of it as sort of like you go to a party and you walk in and the first person you meet there is 6 foot tall. That's pretty tall. But suppose you're at the party a while longer and you run into someone that's 6 foot 10. Well, you can say that both those individuals are 6 feet tall, but there's a big difference between just being 6 foot and 6'10", okay? Now, you can think of that in viscosity terms. If you build to the higher end of the scale, you end up with a better finished product. And as we said a little while ago, if you use a really good shear stable polymer that ensures that the product will stay in grade to the end, that ensures the product will stay in grade for the whole length of its drain interval. Very, very good thing, okay? The other thing we worry about in oils is viscosity index. The viscosity index is basically an oil's pedigree. The higher the viscosity index of the finished product, the more stable it is over temperature, from low temperature to high temperature. So, viscosity is important, viscosity index is important. The other thing that's very important, flash point. The higher the flash point, the less consumption you get in the finished product. And if you're really selecting components for their quality, higher flash point, more shear stability, these things all cost money. So that's why one of the things that unfortunately we suffer is if you really want to build a really good quality oil, it costs more money. And what you want to do is also look for carbon content. That's also a big thing. But flash point is very important because when you're picking your base stocks and your additive technology, you want to make sure that they have a really good flash point. And the thing I would stress is, particularly with these days where you're using, car oils recommend very low viscosity, 530s, 520s, check your dipstick regularly because if you're making those types of product, you have to use lighter base stocks and they tend to have lower flash points, so they tend to be consumed, okay? I had a situation where, believe it or not, I'm the mechanic for my niece, and I had changed her oil, and I had put in a 540 synthetic product, and I instructed her that she's supposed to check the oil. Well, she was driving, and the car went into, now this is a Honda CRV. They have a particular mechanism that if the oil sump goes below a certain amount, obviously the oil pressure will drop. If it goes under 10 pounds, the engine goes into what they call a flutter mode, so that it won't hurt itself. Luckily, my niece was smart enough when that happened, she pulled over. And she had also listened to me, and when I said, always carry an extra quart of oil with you. So she stopped, checked, and realized that the dipstick was way, way low, like it was just about showing. She put the quart of oil in that she had, the engine went back to operating normally. But when she called me, she said, but I was only over a few thousand miles on the oil change interval that you recommended. So I said, Kathleen, when was the last time you checked under the hood of the dipstick? Remember we chatted about? Oh, I'm sorry, Uncle John, I didn't remember that. So what we have to remember is check the oil dipstick pretty regularly, because in particularly today's cars, if you use lighter viscosity products, they tend to volatilize and they tend to be consumed. So you're going to notice that you use oil. Okay? Yes?
John, I'm kind of curious with, in the automotive world anyway, oil change intervals are getting longer and longer and longer. Is that a result of oil technology? Is it engine manufacturing? And then is that also carrying over into the motorcycle world?
That's a good question. In extending drain intervals in the car world, really what it is the car oils now, you'll see, are becoming more and more synthetic or synthetic blend, okay? And if you use synthetics, they're much more oxidation stable in and of themselves than conventional petroleum products. You don't have to additize them for that, okay? So you don't have to worry so much about the zinc and phosphorus content. And so therefore, and the other thing the car people want is they want to extend the drain intervals, because it sort of makes it less of a maintenance concern to the owner. So therefore, it makes it easier, and they think it's a saleable point, if you will. And of course, the engine technology has gotten better, but you know, you can only go so far with these things. And as I say, a lot of times you have to look at what is your driving environment. If you're doing a lot of short trips, you know, say you live on a dirt road or there's a very dusty environment, high humidity, short trips kill equipment. There you would want to halve the drain interval. The best thing you could basically do for a piece of equipment or a car is change the oil in Boston and then drive to Los Angeles, have lunch, and then come back. Because you get up to operating temperature, you wick off all of the contaminants. Machinery loves to be at operating temperature and staying there. It's short trips that really kill most everything. You know, it's just the typical commuter car, which you keep replacing mufflers on because the muffler never gets up to temperature to wick off all the moisture out of it and busts out from within. You know, yeah, short stuff is the worst thing. I couldn't hear you on that one.
I said you just gave me a great excuse for my wife to tell her why I'm going to be gone so long.
Oh, okay. Good. But yeah, the car oils today work great in cars, but motorcycle products, you really need a motorcycle specific. And I don't care if you're talking if it's a Japanese or a metric European bike, or if it's a V-twin product, typical of Harley or any of the other manufacturers that are doing V-twin. The stresses on those products are just, those products put on oil are not addressed with car oil. They're inadequate. And I say, you know, we wish we could do a better job of educating the motorcycle consumer in general about the real differences and why, yes, we are a little bit more expensive, but you have a really significant investment in your motorcycle, and if you want to guarantee it's going to be there when you need it and you get all of the longevity and performance out of it you can, you really need to use a motorcycle-specific product. Just in general, when I give one of these talks, I always like to talk about, because unfortunately, well, you wouldn't, because we're in Florida now, so you don't have to worry about this. You really don't have to winterize your bike down here. But if you're from the north, where we are, winterization is one thing we always talk about. And the best maintenance program you can do would be you change your oil and filter just before you're going to winterize, lay up the bike for the year. And change the oil and filter, start it, run for a while, Also, you want to additize the gasoline, so you want to put a fuel conditioner in there with a corrosion inhibitor. You put that in before and let it run for about 20 minutes or so, just to make sure it gets through the whole fuel loop, okay? And the same thing with when you change your oil filter, run it for 10 minutes or so to make sure it's gone through the whole lubrication loop, okay? And the reason you do that, in particular with the engine oil, is all of the additives that we use in our products are sacrificial in nature, okay? They're consumed while you're operating the vehicle. So the additive technology is best new out of the bottle, and that's one of the reasons, if you notice, and hopefully, like Kathleen now, she's checking her engine oil dipstick, you'll notice when you generally change oil, it's very straw colored or very light colored, and then as hopefully you're checking the engine oil, you'll notice that the dipstick, it gets progressively darker and darker. Well, that's the detergent dispersant package holding contaminants in suspension, which is what it's supposed to do. But that has a useful life. At some point it will not function correctly. So that's one of the reasons that we change our engine oil, is we want to get those contaminants out of there and put in a fresh slug of additive technology, so the detergent dispersant package and your anti-wear and anti-oxidation are at their maximum efficiency, okay? Any other questions? Yeah.
Have you seen any impact with the use of ethanol? Have you seen any impact with the use of ethanol?
Currently, have we seen any impact with the use of ethanol? Currently in motorcycle, not really. Where it really would impact, it really had some impact, and I'm talking at 10%, okay? And if you go to higher percent, there you could see impact. The marine industry in particular had some impact. You have to remember, ethanol, alcohol is it's a solvent, okay? So it'll tend to clean things. The thing you have to worry about, particularly in motorcycle, two-cycle motorcycles, is if you get alcohol and water together. That can be a deadly groove for a two-cycle engine, because you'll actually take through the alcohol and you'll toast the engine and you won't know what happened to you, because it will stratify. That's one thing that alcohol and fuel can do, particularly for two cycles. We haven't seen any problem with the ethanol, except for one thing about ethanol is it's hydroscopic, so it likes to take on water. So that's why we suggest if you're going to store the bike, you want to use a fuel conditioner, but one with a stabilizer, but one with a corrosion inhibitor in it, okay? Because that's a problem with ethanol. It tends to take on water, so it can tend to lead to corrosion. So if you use a good quality, a top tier fuel is what I would suggest. Really good branded, and you should be okay. Any other questions? Well, our products are available at any authorized motorcycle dealership, repair shop, and we distribute nationally in the United States and worldwide as well. I believe there is a site online. If you go to our website, www.spectro-oils.com, you'll find we have a dealer locator list, and we also have an internet site that you can purchase through. Any other questions? Well, I guess we finished up for today because we're right about on noon. So thank you for your time, and enjoy Florida, because I certainly have.
Where are you guys out of? Connecticut. So I'm going back to, well, not where.
Great job.
Yeah, so it's not.